Hello, everyone, and happy World Quality Day. I am Olajumoke Fatoki, but most of my friends call me Ola. I work at the intersection of people, processes, and outcomes. I'm an HR professional by practice, a fund development manager, and a career strategist. So I juggle so many things. But today I want to talk about quality in hiring, not just as a buzzword, but as a measurable system, and how simple AI guardrails can improve fairness, reliability, and accountability in hiring process without having to buy new software or even building a data science team. I'm inviting you to join me in this conversation. Thank you. So now I'll be demystifying why these particular subjects matters and why it is very important that we are talking about it now. Every hiring decision you make in an organization, trust me, it's a quality decision because it affects performance, it affects safety, it affects even the organizational culture, and most importantly, it affects trust in your organization and even in the community. And when we talk about digital quality technologies, there's a lot of hype, and trust me, I can understand. But the truth is, quality comes from the process, not the tool. And that's contrary to so many popular opinions. Now, as an HR professional, I can tell you that in talent selection, decades of research has agreed on two key things. Number one, structured methods. And what do I mean by that? You have to get work samples or structured interviews using clear criteria. And these criteria must be consistent, they must be predictive and fairer than unstructured charts that we see around every time. This helps you to ensure that your interview process follows a structured process. And so your results can be predetermined. Number two, algorithms can scale good processes or even scale the bad processes. Now, what do I mean? If we don't put all of these quality checks in place, AI, the buzzword, what everyone is familiar with today, can either amplify the noise or it can amplify the bias. And I would explain what I mean shortly. So, for the purpose of today's conversation, I have put together 3 practical ways that you can make this real in your organization. And I mean, this is applicable regardless of the industry that you're in, regardless of your organization. And this is what I call the 3-part roadmap. So, first, you need to build a simple quality stack for hiring. So, what that means is you need to define the standard through which you hire. You need to instrument the process and you need to be able to measure the results, because if it's not measurable, then it is not achievable. So, what does it mean to define your standard? What does quality hire mean for this role? That's what it means to define your standard. You need to keep it concrete and observable. For example, if you're hiring a frontline coordinator, what are the things that are critical for that role? Number one, you need to do your 90 days reliability check. How often do they need to show up at work? Their attendance, their schedules, adherence. You need to check that. You need to check their service quality, their post-interaction satisfaction score, or their supervisor checklist. Also, how quickly they are able to reach baseline productivity is very critical. And last but not the least, you need to check their value alignment. And I think this is very critical. You need to see that from the evidence from their structured interview process to judge how the value of the organization resonates with the quality hire that you're trying to bring into your organization. Now, something that critical that I would like you to keep in mind is if you do not define your standard and you don't have it in a scoreboard, then don't measure it. Because if you can't measure it, then you shouldn't make a decision based on it. I'm going to move on to the second critical key point, which is instrument the process. Now, what do I mean? Remember, we just created a scorecard, which I was saying to define the standard. Exactly. So the next thing you need to do is to turn that scorecard into 2 structured tools. And here's what I mean. One, a screening rubric that highlights same weight, same pass threshold for every candidate, regardless of their background or how they got into your interview stage. All right. The second thing is a structured interview guide. A lot of hiring managers just show up for interviews feeling like, I've done this all my life, so I know the kind of questions to ask. While I completely understand that from years of experience, you kind of already know where the conversation can go. But a more structured approach would be to have handy at least 4 to 6 behavioral questions that are very relevant to the role, each with anchored rating scales, like 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, depending on how that skill or what you're measuring is relevant to the role. And interviewers must learn to capture evidence and not vibes. And that's a different conversation entirely. Now, the last thing in this category is to measure your results. So you need to learn to pick at least 3 outcome metrics that you can track with minimal admin. So, for instance, quality of hire proxy. You can ask your supervisor to rate the candidate against the same scorecard you used at the point when they were coming into your organization. The second thing you can also do is their retention, because if you've done the right thing at the point of entry, then you are 10 times able to retain such candidates. So, are you able to retain them between 90 days, 180 days, whatever that looks like for your organization? Now, the equity signal, that's another key thing. Equity signal, you need to be able to monitor the selection rate by legally permitted categories to be able to catch adverse impacts early. And the classic one that is very popular is the 4th to 5th role, which is a simple screening procedure. You may want to read up more about that. It's very helpful. So that's your quality stack right there. It's clear, it's structured, and it has a feedback loop in place. So what I'm essentially trying to say is AI can help. As a matter of fact, it's very helpful, but it can only help after this foundation is in place. Now let's move on to another critical piece of what I'm discussing here today, which is AI in hiring. And I know when people hear AI in hiring, they start to worry, understandably, right? They're thinking about bias, black boxes, and stuff like that. But guardrails make the use of AI auditable, explainable, and fair. And here are 5 ways you can begin to implement this immediately. Number 1, prompt patterns, not ad hoc prompts, not impromptu prompts. So if you use a model to draft interview questions or your summaries or even your write-ups, you need to keep a standard prompt library that encodes your scorecard. The benefit of this is across the organization or your hiring process, everyone uses the same prompt, and that ensures quality and reduces the negativity or the possibility of bias. Now, guardrail 2, that is very critical. Make sure that your evidence comes first and your rating comes second. Here's what I mean. Now, this is critical because because you're trying to ensure consistency across your hiring process. All right, you're trying to ensure a quality process. So you need to require the model to extract the same evidence before scoring. This mirrors best practice structured interviews, and it helps the auditors to see exactly why a rating scale was assigned, to the different roles that you were trying to fill across your organization. The third thing you need to check before you go live is your calibration set. Quadro 4, you need to do a quick fairness check. You can compare the pass rates for different groups that you're legally allowed to analyze. And if one group is passing far less than the other, something in your process might be unfair. So you need to stop to check. For instance, if women pass the screen at 40% and men do this at 60%, you need to pause and review the step crossing the gap. This might be an opportunity um, to filter your resumes again, ask more probing questions, or to check your scoring weight. Then the last but not the least in this selection is to keep a paper trail. and protects your privacy. Everyone knows that's very important in the world that we live in today. So you need to record the basics each time, which prompts you used, which AI model, when you used it, and who approved the decision. Don't just store extra personal data because there could be consequences depending on your location. And with this, you can also explain your decisions later. You're providing a scientific backup to how you came to a decision with a particular candidate. If there's one sentence you must remember after this conversation today, this is it. AI multiplies the quality of your process. So make the process good. Make the process good. Now, as I close, I hope I've been able to establish something. Now, quality doesn't come from tools. It doesn't come from the acquisition of more and more softwares. It actually comes from our processes, from our design. So let's design it into hiring. Write the standard, instrument the process, measure and guard, then improve it over time and take feedback for more improvement. If AI is a force multiplier, let it multiply a great process, not our blind spots. Do this, and your hiring process becomes what quality should always be: measurable, fair, and human. Let's build systems people trust, starting today. Thank you for listening. And once again, my name is Olajumoke Fatoki.